Today we're going to be doing a video on how to put on a mortise lock. We have a best, just storeroom lock. Okay, so we got your mortise body. That's the top. That's the bottom. Top is where the mortise cylinder goes. The mortise cylinder is this guy right here. It's got this escutcheon ring. Let's see what else we got. We got a face plate. We got handles. We got beauty rings. We have our handle assembly. And I'm making up words for these. I don't really know. So then we have our strike box. So they give you instructions and tell everybody when in doubt, check it out. This will tell you how to prep it. So we got our preps. Already did those, so we're good on that. And now we're just gonna assemble this. So it actually shows you all the variations you can have. So you can rehand it if you need to. This one's already handed because I got the top of the lock body and the triangle part of the bolts going toward the frame. So when the door shuts, it will latch. So if this is going the opposite way, you can rehand it. You just use a screwdriver and pull it out. Turn it 180 degrees. Before we put this mortise in, we want to make sure that the right side locks. So I'm going to get my handle and I'm just going to put it in the hole that it goes in. Okay, so right now it's unlocked. So if I locked it, I want to make sure that this outside stays locked. Now I'm going to put my handle on the inside. So this will be on the inside of the room. And then just make sure that when you turn your handle, it'll pull that deadbolt in too. So that's what we want. We want to be able to have it locked and then turn the handle on the inside and it'll release. If it doesn't, then what you're going to want to do is see which side is locking. So when you lock and unlock, this whole thing slides up and down. Get a close up of that. So unlocked locks that lever in place. So now I won't be able to turn my handle because that thing is locked. So if you need to change the handing or change it so it'll lock from the other side, what you're gonna want to do is loosen it a couple turns, slide it down. See how it's below. It's below that tab now, and then you can screw that back in. Same with the other side, except opposite. Unscrew it a little bit, slide the lever up, and then screw that back in. If they're both up, you won't be able to get out of either side. Don't do that, that's a bad thing. Here's the breakdown. We don't have any of these fancy escutcheons. We just have, basic, generic stuff, but I'll show you. Mortise body going in, your handle going in, your cylinder going in, and then these are thumb turns and indicators if need be, and these are escutcheons, which in this particular one we do not have. So we're gonna open up the pack of screws. We're gonna have a variety. So we have these two fat ones with a number 3 head. Those are for your strike. You're also gonna have 2 more of those. Fat screws, probably number 12 with a number 3 Phillips head. Those are gonna go in your lock body. You have these 2 tiny little short 1024 screws. Actually, I think these are 832. I'm not 100% sure, but the 2 little screws go into your face plate. These are gonna go to a strike, but we're not gonna need those. And these are these small screws. These ones actually give you bonus screws, so we're not gonna use those. This one is a screw that locks in your cylinder into the housing. I never put these in because you will not be able to take this cylinder out without removing the core. And sometimes we just remove the core, so I chuck these. I don't ever put those in unless they require those. These are for an indicator. So those are extras. So that's all my extra stuff. And that is just with these best 45H setups. Then I have a thumb turn and a compression spring to go with the cylinder. So this will go with this setup. All right, so the first thing that we do, oh yeah, and then you'll have these also. So these are gonna go for escutcheon plates, and those are gonna be for this setup, which we don't have, so that's gonna be extra. These are what we need. So these have to go through this plate, through the door into this plate. Step 1 is install the mortise body. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna install the mortise body and drop my screws. You're gonna need a number 3 Phillips. Don't use a number 2, use a number 3. And then we're gonna go ahead and put these in. I'm gonna put one in before I tighten it. I'm gonna get the other one so they're both in. So I'm gonna loosen. You don't have to take this out all the way. In fact, do not take this out all the way. Just loosen it enough that the post that tension that in will come back past so you can screw the cylinder in. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble all this stuff before I tighten that lock body in. So I got my mortise cylinder. I'm gonna put that ring on there, just a little spring ring. And then this cylinder escutcheon has a groove in it, and that's gonna sit like so. So the spring will sandwich in between the back of the cylinder housing and the escutcheon. And then when you tighten it in, it'll look nice and clean. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in too. Easiest way to do this, just balance that right there. There it goes. So now I got that little piece in there. That's for 6 and 7 pin. And then this will lock your thumb turn in. So now I can keep this up, because if it hangs down, it's going to be really hard to screw that in. So I want it straight up and down. So I'm going to line up my mortise body. I can move it because I loosened these 2 screws. And then I'm going to be very careful and go backwards like a half a turn or so until you feel it click in to the threads. And it should thread in so nice and easy. See how this has a little arrow that says up on it? So I know my cylinder is up, or the cam in the back, that little funky crown looking shape thing, that's called the cam. So I'm going to screw that in. I'm not going to tighten it yet. I'm going to get the handle in first, but that's going to go in real nice, and it spins real nice. If it doesn't spin real nice, you're probably going to need to loosen up these 2 screws to loosen up the whole mortise body. If you can't loosen it up for whatever reason, you probably are going to need to make a bigger hole, but more than likely, just loosen up your mortise body. All your parts will fit in there the way they're supposed to go, and then you can tighten them up accordingly after you get your other stuff in there. So like these 2 holes are going to line up with the holes in your mortise body. So this next piece, it's going to go on the outside. So exterior, it's the same side as your cylinder if it gets one. If it doesn't get one, it's just the outside of the room. So that'll slide into these holes all the way through. So that sits nice and flush. And then this goes on the interior. And it says not to use a drill, so I'm going to use an impact. It's way different. So I'm gonna start these screws by hand, because if I do start them with the impact, that is possibly not gonna end well. And I'm a number 2, and just go real easy. And you don't want to over tighten these either. So I got this one. I should have this flat head. See how that's a flat head? Start it by hand. Make sure you catch a couple threads. You'll find out real fast if it's not going in easy. Then you probably got it cross threaded. So you want it to go in real nice and easy. So I'm gonna snug that. And now that these are in there nice and snug, I'm gonna switch back to my number 3 and screw in the top and bottom screw that holds the mortise body in. So this probably tightened up. Yeah, it's a little snugger. I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten it one more turn. Nope, we're just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna loosen this again. Go ahead and turn out one more turn. Maybe 2 turns. And most importantly, you need to make sure that when you turn this, it will retract that. If you turn this and this just gets stuck and it just hits and it doesn't retract that, then what's happening is inside that cam is hitting on the mortise or something in there, and it will not allow you to turn it. So now that that's in, we can snug these up. Dead battery. Dead battery. I'm gonna use my monster. There we go. So now just snug, like just tight. Don't crank it in. Just tight. That's it. Not even ultra tight. And then I'm gonna switch back to the number 2. And then same thing. Just put it in so it holds. Don't crank it in. These are really critical, because if you tighten these too much, it'll suck the edge of the door in. If you see the gap between here, if I tighten this, see that little gap between the body and the edge of the door? See how it's getting tighter? We don't want to over tighten that, because it'll actually crush the edge of the door in. So we just want this snug so it's not loose, but you don't want it tight so it's gonna like break something. So now we got our set screw for the cylinder tightened. We have our handle assembly with our threads for our beauty rings all on. Now we're gonna put this on. So we got our cylinder in, we got our handle holders, whatever they call them, cylinder. Now we're just gonna make sure those line up. They do, so we're gonna go ahead and screw this mortise body all the way in. The reason I left these two screws loose was so that these could line up, and these, especially if there's a cylinder, you're definitely gonna want that in position to line up. All right, so we're gonna do this outside deal. Gonna try to center that as much as possible. So side to side, up and down. And then what I'm gonna do is make 2 little marks, and then I'm gonna see if it's square. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks good. We can go with that. And then, so I'm gonna use my 16th, or no, this is a 5/64 inch bit, 5/64. I'm gonna line it back up on those 2 lines right there, and I'm also gonna line it up with my that activator. I'm actually gonna lift it up just a little bit. So drill in the center, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and leave that drill bit in there. And we're gonna use these fat screws right here for putting this together. Just make sure you're nice in the center of that. Because this is gonna have to slide right on in and be able to move freely. And then this cap, once you push that in, this cap just snaps over it. Just line it up. And then when you need to get in, they have this key. Locked, unlocked. And then same thing with this side. So I'm gonna make my 2 little marks. Let's go up a little bit. Can do that, but it's lined up with the diamond and that. So that's what we want. And then I'm gonna line these up with the marks that I just made. Drill my holes. And then these are the small 1/2-inch screws with the rounded overhead. And I'm gonna put those in. And again, go real light. Throws nice. All right, so now we can put these on. There's a little spot in there. And you want that hole facing down. So that one I'm going to loosen back up so I can get that hole facing down. This one I got the hole on the bottom. All right. So now that hole is facing down. And then we can put these on. So I'm going to tighten it in all the way and then back it out 1 full turn. So start there. Go 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, full turn. Stick that in all the way through. Make sure it operates nice. And then it has this Allen wrench. Get it so it's not going to fall off. Give it a good pull. And yeah, we're good. And then we have this plate. Pull that sticker off and line it up right in there. So it should not bind up. Should not bind up on this. It should line up with your holes for the screws to hold the plate in. So I'm gonna grab the 2 little screws and go super easy. Like probably even just use a hand screwdriver. Because once they're in, that's all you need. Just go super, super slow. In fact, keep that finger off the trigger as much as possible. Just kind of let it go in. So now you got your Mortise body installed and your lock, and should have put the strike on. Don't do that. I'll grab this stud. That's not gonna fit. See how that sticks out? So what I'm gonna do, take a chisel, aim right there, hold these in. I'm gonna use the chisel to actually cut the stud a little bit. So I folded that over. Now, use the chisel.
Oh, those are the ones that we got done, right?
And then this will drop in just like that. Now that'll sit nice and flat.
So Derek, well, he told me there were 3 inches.
That sits in there nice and flat.
He still needed to hook up.
There we go. 406 wall stop. So for a drywall wall, we use these. For a concrete wall, we'll use this. But this is drywall. So what we do is we see where it lines up. If it had a button, if this was like a cylindrical lock set and it had a button to lock or unlock, that button would go right in this hole. So we'd have to line that up. So what I do is line it up so it'll hit nice and snug. And then I just hold it, and then I take the screw, poke it through, and then just poke it into the drywall. See, now I just made a mark. Now what I'm gonna do is take 5/32 or 3/16, something just a little bit bigger than the anchor on the width, and then run it through. So I'm not gonna make a hole, I'm actually gonna make a slot. So I'm gonna widen that up, but I'm gonna keep that in the same spot. So that's gonna be my center. So I'm gonna go up and down, all side to side. My center still stayed center. So you want it to sit in there. So I get my number 2. You catch those 2 pieces. See how the screw screwed from that, and the tip just went right into that. So that's what we want to see. And then if I drill it tighter than I did today, then sometimes you can just kind of bonk the back of your impact. And then when you screw it in, it spreads. So you don't want to over tighten that either. You just want to make sure it's snug and it won't come off. If it does spin a little bit, that's fine. You just don't want it to like come off, and you want to make sure it's still lined up. If it's not lined up, that's a different video. But make sure every time you put a lock set on, you put the wall stop on too, and make sure it hits good.